The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Magic Software webinar, Why Enterprise Mobility is Your Opportunity for Business Process Optimization. I'm Tom Hutchins, Marketing Manager for Magic Software UK, Ireland and Nordics, and I'm joined today by our Business Development Manager and real expert in this field, David Berlin. Today we're going to be talking through why it is that enterprise mobility requires more than just apps, and why you need the whole back-end integration as well. And just to give a quick introduction from me, I really think it's because of the way everything's changed with the mobile revolution. In the past, we had really the corporate world, which was very much a process-driven, structured and very controlled environment. But users are now expecting to have mobile devices which originated not only as consumer devices but really as content consumption rather than creation, rather than serious work. And people have managed to make them be useful for real work, but there's an expectation that they'll be able to bring their own device, and it's seen as a very personal thing. There's less tolerance of having that really locked down corporate environment. And in consumer world, we've started using apps for absolutely everything, whether it's banking, navigation, social media, e-commerce, buying anything you want, gaming. Go away. Sorry, a slight technical hitch on my laptop. But in the enterprise world, we can't just provide mobile access to, say, a system for our end users, and we can't just offer an application for our customers either, because it's a real process, long workflow that has to work in the corporate environment. So we need to see the mobile side as a real extension of this. And how do we manage to bridge the gap between these two worlds?
Okay, so thanks, Tom. I think to kick off, I'd like to paint a picture in your mind. Just think about a company director. Okay, so this company director, he's able to transfer his funds between international accounts, his Swiss bank account, his UK bank account, and he's able to do that on his desktop browser quite easily. Just a few clicks on his browser, and he's able to achieve that. But he's also able to achieve that just as easily on his iPad. It's a native app he opens, everything is stored, his credentials, he's able to create that transaction and pass those funds on the go. So if it's so easy to do something as sophisticated as that on a mobile device, why shouldn't he be able to use and make decisions authorizing a simple purchase order on his mobile device? And that purchase order may be based on current forecasts, stock levels, and perhaps other factors such as cash flow. Well, on desktop, that sort of process is easy. He opens up the relevant applications, he's got a few windows open, he compares his figures, and then he's able to authorize the transaction and make his decision. But then, could that particular director do the same on his iPad? Well, before I answer it, let's just go through a few things. Okay, so there's a couple of terms, just thinking about that director example. Just keep in mind that particular example. So firstly, we've got a few terms that just wants to define, terms that I'll be talking about during the course of the presentation. So number one is the device. Now when I talk about a device, I'm talking about the actual mobile device. It could be an iPhone 5, it could be a Nexus 5, it could be a Samsung Galaxy S3. Now that's really not important in the context of what I'm going to be talking about. The next term is the platform. The platform is the actual ecosystem of the particular devices. So that could be iOS, which applies to all iOS devices, could be Android or Windows. Again, the platform is not important, and it shouldn't be a major concern when you're thinking about business strategies, mobile mobile strategies in the actual organization. But then we come to things like the channel. Channel is one of the important ones. This refers to the touch point for the user. I guess it's a kind of device, but it's a real touch point. So when we're talking about the channel, this refers to things such as a smartphone, a tablet, a desktop, the cloud, internet, browser. It's the actual experience for the user. The last term is context. Okay, so this is the where, when, and how. Context, again, is very important when you're considering mobile strategies. It's all about the end user experience. It's how the information is provided to the end user, but then also how the information flows back and forth. Okay, so points 1 and 2, the device and platform, they're not really important because they're extremely dynamic and they change all the time. If too much focus is addressed towards these functions, there can be no longevity in any strategy because it requires constant change.
Well, it's actually a really interesting point that if we focus on the technology, the actual devices, that you can't have that longevity because that's very much how you handle a specific device today. Whereas the channel and the context is about how people are interacting with different types of device, different sizes, different form factors, and as we move into a world with more connected devices through Internet of Things, and increasingly we're seeing wearable computing with things like Google Glass and wristbands, and I've read this morning that Apple is possibly finally going to release the fabled iWatch this autumn, then we really are getting into a position where that's very important.
Yes, Tom, I just wanted to go back to something on that, what you're talking about, because you know, when you're talking about devices and the end users, you're always going to find that these end users are going to come into the enterprise using the latest smartphone gadgets that they can actually get. They use it for everything in their personal lives, and then they expect that they want to use that in their environment as well. And that's why I guess we're talking about why the actual device doesn't have to be important. So if the end user wants to use that device, let them do so. You need to focus your strategy regardless of whatever that device is.
Yes, we really want to provide them with a tool in terms of what mobile strategy and applications we can give them that will allow them to accomplish a task, a business-related process, in a way that makes sense for where they are. The context is very important.
Yeah, that's correct. So there's a number of things within the context. Some of the points, things like who, when, and what. So who is it that's actually accessing the information? It could be the business director, as I've been referring to. It could be a person that's actually making a delivery. The when is also extremely important. So that could be the person that actually delivers. He could be in a rural area, and that may require offline access. So you need to think about those sort of factors to create the app in that particular context. Then also there's the what. What is the actual person's goals? What does he want to achieve with the actual app in terms of real-time information? What information needs to be sent back and forth between the user and the application?
Yeah, it's very much a focus on the user experience, and regardless of the device channel, allowing them to accomplish the task. But they do want to work in different ways based on the context, which is not only the context of where they physically are, but also the context that is kind of built into how the device is being used. If you think of a traditional PC, you've probably got keyboard and mouse input. A smartphone is a small screen and purely touch enabled. A tablet is going to be touch, but it's a bigger screen, and depending on what model of tablet you have, you may well have an external keyboard that connects maybe via Bluetooth, and you might have something like a stylus as well. So a user will tell us, in a way, how they want to work based on what device they use and where they're doing it. If they're in the office, the easiest thing to use for most people, for most tasks, is the traditional PC. And that's because in the office, you have the time, you have the comfort, you've got your desk and everything there. You can set up a PC and really get into the details of pivot tables and a lot of writing and building presentations. Whereas on a smartphone, you're not going to take out the smartphone to do serious work in the office unless maybe you just want to get a task done very quickly. But that's really why you'd be using that device. When you're out and about, say, I mean, David, as a business development sales guy, you're always off in meetings. I imagine that if you just had a successful meeting, you want to update maybe your Salesforce records very quickly. But this really brings us back to the whole workflow context, because if you imagine that we want to update Salesforce or other CRM after a successful customer meeting, maybe they want to actually purchase an upgrade of an existing customer, or you start actually getting towards a deal with a new customer. Something else needs to happen. Maybe there's a credit check needs to go ahead, or maybe some order fulfillment needs to happen. Maybe that's in the ERP system.
Tom, so many marketing concepts you're throwing out there. Let's keep it real. Let's bring it back to that sales director again. Okay, so consider again, everything that Tom's mentioned is 100% correct. So if we try and bring that into the example that I gave earlier with the sales director. So again, he or she is able to create or open up several applications on his desktop, so he can then consider the figures and make a proper decision. So that comes in with a traditional PC. For the tablet, if he, she, or is using a mobile or tablet, the multiple windows won't work because it needs considerable amounts of information. So a tablet may be more appropriate for being able to drill down into specific reports that are being viewed. But then on an actual smartphone, the director needs headline figures that allows him or her to make those decisions on the fly very quickly. And of course, information in real time again. So regardless of the channel, the director should be presented with the information, again, the context, that allows him to fulfill his or her role, and again in real time, and to be able to interact with the back office systems to allow the business processes to complete. Because remember, this is only a small part of a larger business process.
And here we've got just a couple of add-ins to the slide, just examples of how you might be trying to work. On the smartphone, big buttons, it's very easy. It's tell me what I need to action right now. On the desktop, you've got the report, you've got the time. On the tablet, you're kind of in between the two depending on how you want to work. You might even want that to be able to be adapted dynamically as to whether the user actually does have maybe a physical keyboard.
Okay, so let's think of the, once again, the director. We were talking about the same function across different channels. Now, having a mobile version of his CRM solution that they're currently using, that will help. He gets some of the information that he needs, but it certainly doesn't give him a complete picture. And it really doesn't address the business process at hand. He's only getting a very small fragment of the information that's needed for his decision. So you will find most of the application vendors will be providing mobile versions of the applications as they should, but there's still the requirements to be able to allow those applications to interact with each other. And these application vendors, in a lot of cases, they may be competitors and they're not willing to open up very quickly in terms of being able to integrate with one another. They don't like that. So, as I was saying, the business process in the real world is typically a lot larger. There's usually a lot of dependencies and that have to be required, and a lot more data sources that need to be accessed in terms of those types of business processes. Okay, so I'm going to run through the business process. Again, this relates to our director, but this could just be one of the dependencies around our particular director. So before I start, let me just give you this example where this particular organization, they sell stock items, and they do rely on the director being able to authorize certain transactions. Because what happens is they rely on keeping very minimal stock levels to save costs and to reduce their risks. But of course that means there's a dependence on that certain director to authorize those purchase orders in a timely manner so that they can get that stock in and then sell them out. Of course, that's when the director is not too busy transferring his cash between his international accounts. Okay, so firstly at the sales level, a lead would come in from the marketing side. Thank you, Tom, and that gets processed into the CRM system. Again, moving through the sales process, that gets qualified as a potential opportunity, and it moves along through the sales process. This is all done within the CRM solution for now. Now, at this stage, that sales process moves on, where perhaps there's some type of demo, there's proposals that are being drawn up, relationships are being built, if it's a new prospect. And now at this stage, this is when information is required from another system, because we reached a point in the sales process where we need to stop and just verify the particular account. So within the ERP system, we need to first verify that that account exists. If it doesn't exist, we need to create it. So that means taking the data that's being created in the CRM system and duplicating that into the ERP automatically. So you're not having a user sitting and having to type that information in again. It should all be flowed through the system into that ERP. This could also be a step where there are certain verifications made on the particular accounts, credit checks are run, and that's all part of this type of business process. Okay, so then we move on where there's the sales negotiation continues. There's an agreement between the price and an order form is received. Right, once the order form is received, this is the point where our director gets involved. So we've got the order. Now what needs to happen, beneath this particular process that you're looking at, there's another dependency, which is the authorization of the actual purchase order. Okay, so before we can go through delivery and product tracking, the director needs to authorize that purchase order. Now, it's at this point where the whole business process could fall over, waiting on one particular issue. It could be another system. In this case, it is a person action that we're waiting for to complete the business process. But once that does come through, then we've got that authorization, and then the delivery can take place, and payment is made from the customer.
So what you're really saying there, David, is that we've got our director who just has to do a fairly simple action on his mobile device, but actually that action isn't just one simple app or window onto one system, but actually onto an entire process that's affecting a large part of the enterprise, many people, and ultimately financial performance for the quarter.
You got it, Tom. That's exactly the point. So one business process relies on another and another and another, and ultimately a lot of business processes are intertwined, and you can't have points of failure because that is going to result in a crash of the business. So it's very important to set and determine these sort of things, determine them beforehand, before you even think of mobility and enterprise mobility. It's important to get these types of considerations made. All right, so mobile apps themselves, together with the strategies, they're far more than the actual front-end interface. It's about being able to address that whole business process, which entails integrating data from multiple systems like SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, Sugar, just to name a few. It doesn't matter what those systems are. It's being able to integrate regardless of whatever those systems are out there, and then presenting the information in a way that's informative and interactive to the end users. So it becomes more than just mobile, but it becomes about being able to address the business process on any channel, regardless of the complexity of that back-end integration. So you shouldn't have to rely on that back-end integration too much to be able to continue that business process. It should form a complete part together with everything else. So because of the nature of changing technology today, the view of having point-to-point integration simply doesn't work today. There's a few reasons for that. Well, firstly, it's a major developmental task requiring a wide range of skills. If you consider some of the large organizations that have several systems, you're going to need skills in each of those systems to be able to develop some type of integration framework for all of those, each one having a separate type of interface. Then any change in that business process that we were talking about results in more development, more skill sets, and of course more money and time that's required. There's also so many different points of failure in this type of scenario. One of those points goes down, the entire process is halted or affected. Okay, now that's only on the back-end integration. Okay, but then we come on to the front end as well. So for the front end, the focus needs to be on the channel and the context, as Tom and I were mentioning earlier. Resources focusing on building an app for an Android might work for the short term, but in the longer term, there's going to be a difficult manager that comes on board who insists on using his iPad. So the focus should be more about using an environment that allows a single development effort that can be deployed to any channel, and that's regardless of the device or platform.
Now, of course, there's many requirements in any enterprise mobility solution. It's not just about, as we're saying, creating an app, but there's also, you need the robustness, the availability, you need to be able to deal with changing demands, you need to make sure everything's working, you need auditability. So really, we'd love to go into more detail on this. Today's session really focuses on the first point, the integration. But over the next few months, we're going to be doing a few more of these sessions around the user experience, another on rapid application development, and another one on how you actually deal with the management side and being able to really make sure that you have the control, the auditability of everything that's going on. In short, though, integration is a key requirement because you're providing secure access to your enterprise data anytime, anywhere. That's really the nub of today's presentation. The user experience has to go beyond simple screens. It has to be very intuitive, and it has to fit with the overall feel of the kind of device you're using. And it has to work offline. We could in fact do an entire session just on how to do offline and how to make that work. Of course, you have to be very flexible and quick to respond to developments in the market, new trends. You need to be able to build in security, both of your data and your customers' data, across the application, the device, and the user. And of course, you need to be able to maintain, manage, monitor, control the application, the infrastructure, devices, users, making sure that everyone who has access needs it, everyone who needs access has it, and that these are dealt with very quickly. And finally, the last point is that it's much easier to achieve all this if you work with an experienced partner who's able to see around the corners for you and deal with any little road bumps before they really become an issue.
Yeah, so I guess when you're looking at enterprise mobility and the integration required for it, it shouldn't be seen as a challenge. It should be seen as an opportunity, and it really is an opportunity for an organization. So creating that mobile strategy is an opportunity to redefine or possibly even to create new business processes for the company. It's an opportunity to relieve some of the staff of the manual work that they've been doing, which is duplication between systems, exposing them to the risks that are associated with that. It's also an opportunity to empower some of the partners, the field workers, with information that would allow them to be more creative in their way to do business. It also allows your company to become far more attractive to work with, for your actual partners and for your actual prospects. You become a lot more attractive. So all of these concepts that we've described today, every single one in terms of back-end integration, front-end development, it's all achievable today. And you can get all of this with the Magic Platform. Okay, so that includes things like real-time back-office integration, code-free development for a front end, which can be deployed to any channel. So I would say that at this point, we'd like to invite you to a free consultation where we could actually come in, we can look at your existing environment that you've got, and we can help looking at how those business processes can be built and how they can be achieved in terms of getting you to a point for enterprise mobility where you can have a full-blown enterprise mobile app that can be used by anyone in the organization. And regardless of that user, each person would have their specific access and specific functions. So this is an invitation to you to contact us to arrange that free consultation. The address that you can contact us on is at the Marketing UK address, and that will be directed to Tom, and we will set a date and come out and meet with you.
I'd just like to say that for those of you who are following this in maybe a few weeks' time on the recorded version, it absolutely still applies. You can always contact us at any time to discuss whether you have current needs or upcoming projects. You're not sure whether this is something that could apply to you. If you think it might, then please get in touch. We're always happy to hear from you. All right, so I believe that's it from us for today. So I'd just like to thank you all for attending. I hope to see you again soon. And if you're on the recorded version, then hope to see you on a live one in the near future. Thank you and goodbye.